Okay, Commissioners, the next item is 4.4, Active Living in Parks, Matching Incentive Grant Request. We have Londa Strong here to present this information. Thank you.
Thank you. As you may remember or recall, back a few months ago, we had an incentive grant request that came from the community. We had a request of over $72,000. We only had $50,000, so obviously we had to eliminate some or cut some of the grant requests. Paperwork's been done. They've given us their half of the money. A lot of the projects have started. We had one that got a little anxious, had some stuff done before all the paperwork was finalized, so they didn't follow the guidelines. Therefore, we weren't able to give them, well, we'd already given it to them, and then we found out what was going on. The $6,169 that they were not going to be able to use out of this program, so we have refunded their half, which leaves us the $6,169 on our half. One of the grant request that was cut was the Northwest Cabarrus Middle and High School track. And we asked them if they still had money that they could match this if in fact it was approved. They said yes, they did. So we have this request to reappropriate $6,169, which currently are unassigned funds, to the Northwest Middle and High School track program. So that's a long process that's trying to make it as brief as possible for you. If you have any specific questions or comments about that, please, I'll be glad to entertain them or at least attempt to.
And just for a recap for the people that will watch this later, you do some matching grant funds where the county provides 50% and the entity, a nonprofit, provides 50% in order to get parks-related projects done. That's correct.
On county.
On county-owned.
Municipal, county, or school-owned property.
Right.
And the
Okay.
list that is on the screen now are the items that were requested this year.
And
and
every
what was
year
funded.
you advertise to the PTSOs and to the athletic organizations, and they all have an opportunity, if they have funds available,
Yes.
to submit a project to you the Parks Board for consideration.
That is correct.
So this recommendation is coming from the Parks Board
Yes,
to do this funding.
that is
Okay.
correct.
Just wanted to clarify a little bit. I know we know that, but just clarifying. Do you have any questions, comments? Good with it?
We had a group from Northwest come to us maybe a month before last talking about the conditions of the track. Is that what this will go for?
I'm assuming it, I don't know which track they were
Track and
referencing.
restrooms and.
This is the same.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Different.
is the track that is in front of the two schools.
Uh-huh.
It's not around the football field.
And that,
It is
they were
separate
the
in front.
one around the football field.
No, they were
No,
talking
they-
about this one.
the same one, okay.
Yes. They were talking about this one, and when you
Yes.
drive by the school,
Mm-hmm.
or is it Orphanage Road there too? Or does it change its name?
Trinity Church, I'm familiar with it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that one right there.
Okay,
A lot of
great.
times you'll see cars parked and people are walking the track after
Great,
hours.
thank you.
It has been neglected. It is in very much disrepair. And as they said in their request, it is used by the community, and it is used tremendously by the community.
Okay, nothing else? Okay. Thank you. You have the next item also.
I do.
Baseball mounds.
I'm sure you all have heard plenty of the stories of all the baseball tournaments and softball tournaments, but right now there have been a switch over to baseball tournaments that are in Cabarrus County. A lot of, between Top Gun Sports and Little League and USSSA, I couldn't tell you how many tournaments there are a year in the county. Some of the groups have been trying to get some state and national tournaments. Leads to a problem of not having enough fields, and they have to go to Mecklenburg County or Stanley County or Rowan County, or sometimes all of them, to be able to have all of the baseball teams on fields with mounds, pitchers' mounds. So there was a group that was talking to us about this, and we talked with Mr. Downs, and that's where we came up with this. The 13 baseball mounds will cover most of the fields that do not have mounds currently. Would be an increase of 13 fields that we would be able to use for baseball tournaments, bringing teams in from the county. They would be stored by the county, owned by the county, and any of the groups that wanted to utilize them would just make a reservation for them, not charge them, but to have a reservation, and then they would go to whether it was Bethel or Hartselle or Harrisburg or whoever. These particular mounds are made by a fellow in Wadesboro, I believe it is. I went to visit them. He makes them. They're better than, in my opinion, they're better than any that you can buy, and he delivers them free. And most of the ones that we had been buying, the better ones that we had found, were in California and cost us $600 or $700 each for delivery. So when I heard about this particular fellow, I wanted to see some of them to see if they were as good as what everyone had said. And in my opinion, they're probably more reinforced and stronger. And he's right there and can do a lot of replacing. He can replace the carpet on them. The pitching rubber is separate, so it can be replaced. They were, for the price, I thought it was a really good deal. And we were looking at the CVB money on this for these particular 13 mounds.
Yeah, these, as Londa said, this allows you to not have to build baseball fields and softball fields. You can use softball fields for softball, and you can bring these mounds in and use them for baseball fields. And it allows you to use larger baseball fields with the mound that's set back there. You can bring these in and put a mound in front. So it allows you to not have to build as many fields, and it also allows the flexibility of using those fields that we have. And from the visitor's perspective, it allows us to recruit more tournaments, larger tournaments, simply because we now have more fields. The money is that we're proposing, that it comes from the fund. As you know, there's an agreement with the Convention and Visitors Bureau that we receive a percentage of their revenues each year that's put into a fund that we can use with their agreement to enhance our parks, to help promote tourism, and to help to promote youth sports. So this money would be coming out of that fund. That's what we're proposing. So if you have any questions for Londa or myself, we can answer that, but it's a pretty good deal.
It's a pretty good deal. There you go. Any thoughts? Everybody good?
This is exactly what those funds are there for, is to increase visitors and to improve our parks, and it's a blessing to us that we don't have to have the money out of the general fund, so I think that's a great idea.
Like he said, it's a pretty good deal, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other. Okay, next we have the legislative goals. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners has requested that we submit federal legislative issues that are statewide in nature and have an impact on counties for them to be aware of and what our concerns are. They do need this in a timely manner, which means the action before us tonight would be a motion, after we have discussion, would be to suspend our rules of procedure and to adopt the goals so that we can go ahead and forward them to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. You've got the attachment that has the 2013 federal issues that have been noted. I'm sure you've all read these. We have our legislative goals that you have up there that we've talked about in the past. So I don't know how you want to start the discussion. Do you want to?
Yeah, just to add, just the process itself. They request this of all 100 counties, and the 100 counties send them in. Then they're vetted through their legislative goals committee, and then they take them to the general caucus of county commissioners, and they come in. Each one of the boards of commissioners assigns a voting delegate to go to this conference. Anybody can go, but you're only allowed the one voting delegate. And then they start to pare that number of votes or goals down until what you see it's attached in there. So they narrow them down to very broad goals that encompass a lot of the more specific goals. So this is what we sent to them last year based on the input from the board, and then again the other attachment that's in your folder there is what the ultimate goals of the association were. We can go from there.
So how about, if you'll look at page 98, which is the back of our document, which is this document. This is the one that, like you said, that we worked on for last year. So If you want to take a moment and read through those, is there anything on there, I guess, that you would like removed? Or is there anything on there that you might want to add? Or can you remind me, did we rank these, or I don't think we ranked them. Right. So these are in a random order, if you will. They're not number one is not necessarily our most important. However, I think that I would vote that unfunded mandated programs are extremely important, and they rank up there number one for me. So, but anyway, if you'll look at that, and is there any changes that you want to make? We can just change the date, send this in for this year. Yes, sir.
I think it's a good list. I was the voting delegate for our group at the Legislative Goals Conference last year. I promise you that, each 100 counties submits one of these lists, and they do a very comprehensive job of going through them one by one. There may be a few others but it's also, you will find that there are a great deal of similarities. Most of the counties have the same concerns. But they do vet all of these and go through an exhaustive process of discussing them. I would encourage any of you to attend that if you get the opportunity. It's very educational to learn in more detail about a lot of these things. But I'm in favor of this list and would make a motion that we suspend our rules to take action on this tonight.
Okay, well, we do have a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. For suspending the rules, okay? Then you have also made a motion that we adopt the same list and we submit it. Is that what?
I do. I move that we adopt the list as presented to us tonight.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? Okay, so we do have a motion and second. Other discussion, because I want to give everybody a chance. Do you want to wait?
Do we get an opportunity to make a list like this for the state level? Because one particular concern that I have that I've talked to Ben Rose quite a bit about is with respect to our food stamp program. Ben Rose told me that we have had a 50% increase, but he said also that's not just because of the economy, it's because they have changed the requirements for applying. And there is no more asset test. And I talked to Ben about this, and I talked to Carl Ford about this because I have been talking to him about it. But the Rowan County director sent Carl an email that he forwarded to me that said you could have a $300,000 house, a $100,000 bank account, and a Mercedes-Benz, and you could still get food stamps. And we do not pay the benefit, but we do pay 50% of the administration. So I think between the weakening of the work requirement, which is a federal issue, and the removal of the asset test, which is a state issue, it's been very expensive for Cabarrus County to maintain those things. And I would like to, as a group, start addressing that with this organization such that we can work together as counties to defend some of those costs.
I guess then I would ask the county manager, is that something that we would want to discuss at the retreat? Or is it something, we have a lot on the retreat, so I don't want to get so much on there that we can't address it. Or is it maybe next month's meeting at the work session, or in the next couple months that we can figure out when North Carolina School Association of County Commissioners would be asking for state ideas, or how we want to, we need to have a bigger discussion with all of us to determine exactly what.
Yeah,
we'd
and
be
these
interested
are
in.
local goals, but they are to recommend to the legislature on how they should proceed. So, if you want a word, well, you can approve this tonight, and then we can send this later in as an addendum, that particular topic. And always, if you don't get it done in a timely manner, you can always present at the meeting. It's an open mic at certain times to add to the agenda. It's better to do it ahead of time so they can vet it through the process of their commission or their committees. But yeah, we can add that, and I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
So, if it's okay, can we put this on the February work session for some discussion? And between now and then, if you can wordsmith it the way that, how you want it to sound, or how you want it to read, and then make sure that Megan gets it so we can all look at that, and any other issues that are of concern. And then we can make sure, like you said, we can send it on and add it to, or, just let them know that we've had more discussion. I think that would be.
Yeah,
good.
what I'll do is we'll give them a call tomorrow and see if there's an absolute drop-dead date. And if that date is prior to the work session, then we'll add it to the retreat to make sure. If not, then we can do it at the work session. Okay?
That work for you?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other comments on these? Okay, well, we do have a motion and a second to submit this list, just change the date on it to make it the current date, and to go ahead and submit this. And all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you all very much. Okay. The next one, I think, is the county manager, if I can get to it. Rowan Cabarrus Community College Capital Reserve Funds. Are you going to talk about that, or Pam? I'm
Yep.
sorry.
I started a project with Tim Foley prior to his retirement, and then finished it up with the finance director for RCCC. And in the process of accumulating the funds that they needed for the particular project they were doing, they were wanting to request all of their capital reserve monies to be drawn down. The first request left $45,217.86 of it remaining behind. When we sat down between Janet Spriggs and I and reconciled between the two, we found out that additional amount of money needed to be drawn down for them to be able to complete their projects. This would exhaust any monies that we were holding in the capital reserve funds on behalf of Rowan Cabarrus Community College. And the reason we actually held those monies was because there was a state match associated with them, and they have had that state match to draw these monies down. And the request before us today is to go ahead and deplete the remaining amount of funds so they can finish the projects that they were aiming towards accomplishing.
Okay. Other than this particular request, what would be the uses of these funds? Are there any other, what else would it be used for? If they didn't ask for it for this, what else would they use it for?
It would be capital in nature.
So just some other capital project that they would do, that they would have to identify, then they would come back to us. But this is because they already have the project
This was
ongoing.
finishing Building 1,000, doing the one-stop, the cafeteria renovation. It was those projects that when they originally asked for those funds. But yes, it would only be used for capital projects.
At Rowan Cabarrus Community
At
College.
Rowan Cabarrus. Yes, it was actually money allocated towards them towards the last bond referendum where they had state money to match to it. So we cannot give it to anybody else.
Okay. Steve, you are on their board. Do you want to start with any comments on this, or anything you need to add?
No, I mean, I think we've talked about this project over some period of time, and it sounds to me like this is just one of those Pam Dubois staying on top of the rules kind of things that always kind of confuses me, and I trust her judgment, and I'm in approval.
Chris, any comments? Jason, anything? Okay, we're good? Okay. Thank you. Let's go to 4.8, filing fees for 2014 candidates for Cabarrus County Sheriff and County Commissioners.
Okay, it's the Board of Elections request of the county commissioners to set the filing fees per General Statute 163.107, and those fees need to be set for the position of sheriff and commissioners. The fees are required to be set at 1% of the annual salary of the office being sought, and these positions are not compensated by fees like the Register of Deeds would be compensated by fees, so they'd fall under a different section of the statute. So the current sheriff's salary is $101,823.68, and 1% of that would be a filing fee of $1,018.24. A commissioner's seat is $12,308.88, and 1% would be $123.09. And the motion on the floor for the board would be for them to approve these fees so that I can present a letter to the Board of Elections so they can start collecting those filing fees when February 10th, when it opens up.
Okay. So, are there any questions concerning this item? Pretty simple math, 1%, so, okay. Thank you very much. Next item is the update to the interlocal agreement for the establishment of the Regional Radio Advisory Council. That one would be you.
Yes, ma'am. So, in the past, or that we are currently in the association with Charlotte Mecklenburg, Well, here locally, we're in an agreement with an intra-local agreement with Concord and Kannapolis. And as an entity of the 3 jurisdictions, we are a member of the regional system, or the radio system through Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And through that original agreement, there was a creation of a governance board, a regional governance board, to make the decisions on the system and how it would grow and that type of thing. And there would be a representative from each jurisdiction on that board. And so it was set up originally, and it was called the Regional Governance Council, I believe. Let me make sure I got that right there. Governance Board. I think it was originally a board, but in vetting through the Mecklenburg County Commissioners in the City of Charlotte, they have requested that language be changed to Regional Advisory Council. The duties of that council will remain the same. It's just their preference of advisory council versus a governing board, when actually you guys and the Mecklenburg County Commissioners and the others are the governing boards of your own jurisdictions. And then Mecklenburg and Charlotte are the governing of that. Since they are the owners of the system, then they would be the governing board over there. So what we're asking you to do, this has been before their boards, both the city and the county in Mecklenburg, and they're asking you for the updates of this language to advisory council.
Who represents us on that board?
I do currently. Right now, there is a technical committee here in the county that works on the system itself, and that's made up of first responders, because they're the ones that are using it every day. And then there's sort of an oversight committee, and that's myself, the 3 managers, the 2 city managers and myself. And the way we've set it up is that we would rotate annually as being the representative that would go to the regional meetings. I served the first year, and we're still in the process of getting, this will end that process of getting the bylaws and the local agreements and everything in place. So I will continue this year, and then the following year, one of those managers will take my spot on the board. Anything that goes on over there, of course, based on agreements, will come back to our board and to the city boards for approval as well if there's major changes or major requirements of expenses or expenditures. So, but that's how it is. It's the 3 managers are on the local board.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Jason, do you have any questions?
This will hurt their stationary budget.
As long as it's theirs. Okay. If there's no questions, then we will go to the next item. Public School Building Capital Fund, North Carolina Education Lottery applications. Susan Farrington.
Before you, there's 2 applications that we will need to send in to the Department of Public Instruction to receive our lottery funds. Lottery funds have been used in the past for construction and for debt service, and in our 5-year plan, according to the 5-year plan, for the next 5 years, we'll be using the lottery funds for debt service. So this amount of money is $4.9 million. 2 separate applications are there, one for Cabarrus County Schools, one for Kannapolis City Schools. They both boards have to approve this, plus yourself, and we can obtain that signatures and send it off, and then we're ready to draw down the money to go into our budget. Right now, we currently receive about $2 million per year, and we're on track this year. After 2 payments so far this year, we've already received $1.1 million, so we're right in line with receiving our $2 million per year.
Okay, so when people ask, because I know I have people say, well, why can't you just use lottery funds for everything? We are using lottery funds. And I don't know how many years it's been. It's been probably since close to when the lottery began that the county and the 2 school systems agreed that it would be used for debt service.
Correct. The past 3 years, we've used some of the monies for debt service.
Okay.
A total, I did do a quick summary here, about $9 million has been spent for debt service since inception.
We used to say back in the day when I was on the school board, you liked it when there were lots of fines and fees, or fines and forfeitures, because those come to the schools. And you encourage people to gamble and buy lottery tickets, because that comes back too. Kind of have to be a little careful when you say those things, but nonetheless, if you get those fines for some reason, that's where it has to go. There was a big lawsuit actually that determined that the fines had to actually stay with the schools, because the state didn't want it all to come down to the schools. State lost that one, but that's okay. So, but this is how lottery funds are used locally towards our debt service. So, questions? Steve?
I've misheard something incorrectly. I'm seeing 4.9 million, 4.2 million, but you were saying 2 million.
We were using accumulated funds.
Uh-huh.
For several years, we did not spend our lottery funds. They were
Right.
accumulating throughout the year. So this will be the year that we're finally caught up, and we'll use all of our lottery monies that we have.
So that all added together
it's
totals
accumulation.
4.9 million.
Accumulation of
Gotcha.
funds. In fact,
Okay.
we had to wait till the November distribution to be able to do this.
Right.
So it was catching up with us now. We've
Yeah.
been spending the lottery funds, so.
Great, thank you.
Chris? Jason? Okay, there you go. I was wondering, I actually remembered that we were trying to spit it down, but good question, and thank you very much. Next, we have Ben Rose with Human Services DSS, 2014-15 Community Development Block Grant Public Service Activities Request. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. We're excited to be here tonight to talk about this great opportunity that we've had with the city of Kannapolis. We've been in discussion with them regarding the possibility of pursuing a community development block grant. And the purpose of this grant would be to really enhance the services that are provided at our Kannapolis Lunch Plus site. The goal would be to enhance programming, enhance facility services, and really expand those services to those Kannapolis residents. It's really an exciting opportunity to help us get more programming and more health and preventative services and education to the citizens that go to this site. Since this is through the city of Kannapolis, it would only benefit that site, basically. Kathy's going to tell you a little bit more about the specifics and what we would do, but again, our purpose tonight is to seek your approval in pursuing this grant.
First of all, we'd like to share a video with you so that you will have some general idea as to what kind of happens at the Kannapolis Lunch Plus site. And this is courtesy of Cabarrus this week. They did a on-site taping.
Now this week we're visiting with one of the popular Lunch Plus sites in Cabarrus County, Living Water Church in Kannapolis. Now this is one of the 5 sites across Cabarrus County where individuals ages 60 and above can participate in the program that is dedicated to keeping minds, bodies engaged. Each week from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m., seniors can come out, meet friends, take exercise classes, receive health education, and enjoy a free, hot, nutritious lunch. Now, Lunch Plus focuses on providing the same types of programs at each of the locations. Now, you're greeted when you come in and are immediately welcomed into this busy atmosphere. Now, each day, the program's complimentary lunch is served at 11:30 a.m. Now, if you'd like to work up an appetite, well, there's fitness classes that are also available for just a small fee. Now, transportation assistance is also available. Now, the Lunch Plus Club has existed for over 15 years and continues to make an impact on the community by providing nutrient-rich, balanced meals and really opening up a social outlet for older adults. Now, in the past month alone, the program has served over 4,400 meals to Cabarrus residents. Along with the meals, a variety of fitness classes are available for every fitness level. Monthly blood pressure tests are also free of charge, or participants can learn from a number of health education classes ranging from identity theft to fire prevention. Now, whether you're new to the area or just looking to make some more connections in the community, Lunch Plus offers flexible activity options. Now, Lunch Plus Club meets Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 5 locations across Cabarrus County. At the Logan Multi-Purpose Center in Concord, the Harrisburg UM Church in Harrisburg, United Love Baptist Church in Midland, Cabarrus County Senior Center in Mount Pleasant, and the Living Water Church in Kannapolis. For more information on the Lunch Plus Club, visit the Cabarrus website, or you can call 704-920-1400.
Basically, the opportunity that we have is to apply for a grant that is funded annually by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And this grant comes through the city of Kannapolis. Historically, they have done grant amounts of around $5,000 apiece. But this year, in our discussion with the city, there is the possibility that they will be funding grants amounts to a greater extent to fewer recipients. The grant that we might be able to get would be anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000. So at this point in time, the council is still looking to see where they do want to use this money, but we would like to just ask the board, if this does become an opportunity for us, that we would have your permission, of course, to apply for this grant to see if we would be successful in getting it. What our plans would be that it would fund activities that would benefit low and moderate income residents, our seniors in the city of Kannapolis, and also those things would focus on improving their health, their mental health, providing education for them and recreation. We have the opportunity to partner with the Active Living and Parks Department. They currently are doing some of the exercise classes and things that we have at our Kannapolis site, so we would hopefully be able to expand those. We're also going to be working with Cooperative Extension to help us in our grant writing process as well. So we're reaching out to different areas of other departments within the county to help us when the time comes for us to apply for the grant. February the 11th is probably going to be the timeline that they will let us know that the application will be available, and then the due date for application would probably be around March the 29th, and then the decision for the grant would be made on June the 30th, and this would be for the upcoming fiscal year of 2014-2015, that the grant, if we were granted that, would be awarded to us.
Okay. Any questions? So at this point, we're just giving you the authority to apply.
Yes,
And then
that is correct.
once if you are lucky enough to receive one of the grants, then you'll come back to us about how that's going to be used in more details.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
And to our understanding and knowledge, there's no local match with this
No.
grant. It would be a whole grant that we could use for programming without any local match.
Chris? Steve?
Do you currently, is there a waiting list for this program, or can you accommodate everybody that?
We are currently able to accommodate everyone that we have with the funding that we get from the Home and Community Care Block Grant and the funding that, of course, the board has given us in our budget. This money that we would be getting would help us to expand. There are folks, I'm sure, in the city of Kannapolis, even right in the area where the site is at, that we would like to expand to bring in so that we could even have more. Right now, we average, I think, between 80 and 90 participants a day.
Right.
So we would really, the space, as you can see, will it allow us to expand? So we really would like to expand the opportunity for we to have more people to come.
Well, I'm glad you showed the video, and I've made this comment before. In my mind, I had a picture of people coming in, eating lunch, and leaving, and it's a lot more than
Yes.
that. I had an opportunity to sit with some of have lunch with some of the employees from the Kannapolis site a couple months ago, and it's very obvious that this is much more than the nutrition piece of it. I mean, that's their socialization, you know, and for those of us who do Meals on Wheels, and visit seniors that can't get out of their house, it's very obvious that a lot of them, that's the most important part, having some human interaction and getting to talk. So, you know, I think it's a great program, and I hope you're successful in securing the grant.
I think the city of Kannapolis views this site almost like a senior center, and that's why they really wanted to partner with us in this, to really see if there's ways to grow it and expand it and help with the facility as well. That'll be a nice benefit of this grant as well, too.
Jason?
My only question was, if you go from receiving about $5,000 a year to maybe up to $50,000 a year, would you have the potential to share some of that additional money with other, is it Lunch
Plus.
Lunch Plus, that's what I was, with other Lunch Plus, we have 4 other ones in the county, right?
It would have to be, since this is a City of Kannapolis grant, it would have to be for City of Kannapolis residents. So that would limit us. but I would think us partnering with certain other departments, that might open up an avenue for us to bring more services in that otherwise that we might not be able to if we did not have that money for that specific site.
And what is your total budget for the year?
I did not bring that with
Home
me.
and, off the top of my head, the Home and Care Community Block Grant
Is-
funds the Lunch Plus sites.
I think it's approximately around 115,000, I
That's
think.
what I was going to say.
I get around 91,000, and then I get some USDA money, around 12,000 that goes with that we fund. Now, that is just funding our food budget.
Sure. My only concern about this is if your budget is about 115,000 and you did get one of these big grants, it would be about a 50% increase, and I would just, I'm always thinking about, there's 4 other sites, and what, is there going to be a discrepancy between the 4 sites and things like that? I mean, if the money could be shared equally amongst them, that would resolve that problem, but do you
What
think
we-
that would happen, or what do you think?
What we would be able to do is this grant would allow us to also be able to maintain or help us pay for the facility costs that we're currently incurring there at the Kannapolis site. So if we have those funds available through the grant to be able to pay that, then we would be able to look at shifting some of those monies to the other sites and help to make up any discrepancies that might occur.
And that's what I was going to ask, if there was an opportunity to be able to shift once
Right.
you,
Mhm.
depending on how much you get and what the
Right.
need is there. Obviously, this is for Kannapolis, but if there
Right.
was some amount of money that's a fifth of what's currently there that could be shifted to help the other ones.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
this would be a one-time grant, so
Right.
you have to be careful shifting and
Yes.
not being able, it's one year,
Right.
not that they won't do something in another year, but
Right.
you
Right.
wouldn't know that now, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Dana Ure from the library to talk about the Flow Trust donation and related budget amendment. Thanks for hanging in with us for a while. Good to see you.
Thank you. We have a donation from the estate of Mary Lou Floor of $53,851, and we have a budget amendment before you that will reallocate those funds so they can be used to upgrade our auditorium at the Concord Library. When we renovated that building a few years ago, the only room in the building that did not get renovated was the auditorium, and so we're going to complete that renovation with this donation.
Okay, questions? Jason, do you want to start on this one? Do you have any questions?
No, sounds like a good idea to me. When Dana took me around to the library, she walked me through the auditorium, and it's gorgeous in there with the painting and things like that, so that'd be wonderful to have that done.
Great.
Steve? Any comments? Chris? Okay, easy enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
And 4.13, Kelly Sifford is here from Planning and Development, Cabarrus Iredell Rowan Home Consortium.
Yes, thank you. Every 3 years, the Home Consortium requires that we recommit to the program to continue. We, of course, last did it in 11, I believe. We got a letter from Concord in December asking us to state our intentions. We can participate in name only, which is what Rowan County did for many years. If we do not participate, the overall funding for all of the membership declines, and the funding is based on population and poverty formulas. We would recommend, staff would recommend continuing in membership, but I would like to suggest that we do not accept any funding this year. We have a slight backlog. As you know, we had discussed the problems of getting people qualified. We also got a payoff on one of the jobs. So I've got some money that we can use and live off of for at least the next year, which will also in turn allow us to save our match money for this year and not have to contribute that from the general fund to this program for the year. This is our only source of non-competitive funds. Now, the state has recently eliminated funding for housing programs on the whole. They may reinstate it at some point, but currently this is our only source of non-competitive funding. And we are beginning to look at a joint project with Concord on housing for the elderly. This is something that we could use for that this this funding could be used for something along those lines, I have started work with Concord on exploring what the process for that would be. And traditionally, that money is jurisdictionally bound, but they do encourage projects where we work together, so we are starting to explore that. And this is actually likely a recommendation that will be coming out of the Aging Subcommittee on Housing to look at opportunities to work together and come up with some housing opportunities for the elderly. So I would like for us to be able to continue in the program, but like I said, this year I think we can not accept funding and still do well and have enough to go around for what we need to do for the next year. Are there any questions?
Chris, you want to start?
How much usually is our local match that we would be saving? You're saying?
It's 25%. Last year it was $25,000.
Okay, I couldn't remember from year to year. I guess that's all the questions I have.
I had some questions about the program, Kelly. I've heard you talk about it several times, and you've given us updates on different projects. And I was just curious if you could give me some of the parameters about it. This letter or the memo from Concord says that it's for low to moderate income families, and I'm curious about what the requirements are in terms of being eligible for it, and then once somebody meets eligibility, what the benefit of it is.
Okay. It is a housing rehab program. In our case, that's what we have chosen to do with it. You can produce housing. You can build new housing. Obviously, that's something that everybody has stepped back from recently. You can put it into some rental situations, but it does create a long-term monitoring issue, which is something that obviously we have not really wanted to get into. Most of the members of the consortium have elected not to do any kind of rental. Most of them have done home ownership kind of projects where they turn around and sell them and roll the money back over and do more. The income requirement is less than 80% of the median, and of course it's based on family size, so it depends on how many people are in the home, but it's less than 80% of the median. Generally what happens is once we economically qualify them, we have someone go out and inspect the home, do a work write-up. We bid that out. It generally goes to the lowest bidder unless there is some reason for us to believe that that contractor cannot do that job for whatever reason. We sign contracts with them. They carry out the work. It's inspected by the county inspections as well as the quality control consultant that we have that does that work. They sign a deed of trust on their property. Generally, it's going to be a 15-year. They can be anywhere from 5 to 15 years, but if you spend over $40,000, it's 15 years. Generally, with the homes and the conditions that we're getting them and with lead requirements that we have to take care of, you're generally over $40,000 on most projects. It's pretty rare to come into something that's less than 40 at this point. So generally, that's how it works. And currently, if they live out their time there and nothing changes, at the end of that 15 years, it goes away. If they were to, as what happened in one of our cases recently, the owner passed away, the family sold it, and we got the payoff on the prorated amount that they owed us. And so that kind of bumped us back up a little bit more than we had intended to be at this point, but that's how it works.
Do you have to be elderly or disabled to qualify for the program?
That is who we focus on. That's who we market to. We don't not give somebody work if they qualify and we have funding. And, in the past we had, line, and generally there was 3 or 4 people in line. Right now we have not had that, so if there's somebody that steps up that qualifies, we do the work. To be honest, though, I'm trying to think of the last time it's been several years since we have done a family that did not have, generally they're elderly or disabled, and usually it's a single person. Occasionally it's a husband-wife situation, but generally it's 1 to 2 people in the home and they're elderly or disabled.
And for a 2-person family, what was the median income this year? The median income, and we'll calculate the 80% off of that.
Can I send you that? We
Sure.
have so many different programs, and all of them have different income guidelines, so it's kind of hard to keep it off the top of my head. If I had known you were interested, I would have brought that. But I will be glad to send that to you.
And you said most of these renovations are more than $40,000.
Mhm.
What do you do to their houses as part of that renovation?
Good question. We are required, once we touch it, to bring it to code. So when we go through that, generally, first thing you're looking at is the roof. Most people on fixed income cannot afford to replace a roof, and so those are generally the first thing we're looking at. Electrical systems, plumbing systems, HVAC systems, structural issues. Those are typically, and then of course the lead and asbestos. Asbestos is not such an issue. If it's in good condition, you can kind of just paint over it or cover it up and keep going. Lead basically has to be removed. And so if there is lead on anything, it has to be pretty much stripped and removed from the house. And it has to be done by a licensed professional, which is subbed out through our contractors, and they have to the house has to undergo testing prior to us touching it and after us touching it to make sure that it reaches the clearance levels that are required by EPA. So those are generally the types of things that are done. Sometimes there are other different issues, like failing septic tank. If there's an ability to hook them up to a public sewer, we do that. Failing well, if we have an ability to hook them up to public water, we do that. But those are generally the types of things that occur.
You had mentioned that you had not found clients to do this, for whom to do this for. Is Kannapolis and Concord having the same problem?
Yes, everyone is generally having the problem. It got a little bit exacerbated in the past few years with property reval. When property values went down, the equity that people had in their homes went down as well. And it did impact little lower income populations more than it did others, I think, in a lot of ways, because you can have a mortgage on your home, but we can't exceed 100% of value of the property to do the work. So if your house is worth $70,000 and you have a $50,000 mortgage, but I know it's going to be $30,000 for me to fix it to code, I can't touch it. And so we have a lot of people out there who have a need, but we can't qualify them because we can't get everything done. We can't bring it to code within that amount of money.
Would it be better? It seems like it's once you open that can of worms, you have to go in and fix everything, which really boosts your price tag up. Whereas if we could just fix the issue that they were having at that time, you could do it for much cheaper, and you could stay within the mortgage requirements, and a lot more people would be eligible. Is there a way to?
Not under home. Under home, once you touch it, you can bring it to code. The CDBG program that we just closed last month, it did have an urgent repair option on it, where you could, that one actually lets you go up to $15,000. Most of them only let you go up to $5,000, but interestingly, we found that actually one of our projects came in under $5,000. The $5,000 mark is really not hitting it for urgent repair. The Housing Finance Agency does have some programs available. Years ago, we applied multiple years. We are not very competitive from a poverty standpoint in this county. When we're competing against people down east and all that, we don't do very well. So we haven't been competitive in getting those types of grants. And that's kind of one of the things I was focusing on when I was saying this is our only non-competitive grant. We may not have many other options outside of this. And yes, I would love to be able to just do work with urgent repair, because urgent repair is what's needed the most, really. There are so many things, if we could fix a roof, that we could take care of in so much easier ways. A lot of people can't get weatherized because they have a leaking roof, but I can't fix their roof because they're in the city limits of Concord or Kannapolis. Now they have some programs out there and they've been doing some work, but if it's out in the county, I had the CDBG grant, but that's now closed, and the options for that program moving forward, it seems, are gone. So right now we just don't have many options in that area, but yes, I would love to go that direction, but we just haven't been able to produce that.
With as many problems as this has, and really the inability to get clients, is it something that we should even participate in anymore?
I still think it has value. I think when reval goes back up, we'll probably it'll be easier again. I still think that it gives us, one of the big things I guess I didn't mention that we do under this grant that is important is the modifications for disabled and elderly to stay in their home. We do a lot of bathroom modifications, so we, take down to make it a walk-in shower. We put grab bars up. We, put in new toilets that are higher. Things of that nature that keep them in their home longer. And that does have a lot of value. And, again, if they pass away or, they have to transfer the property or whatever, that money does come back and is able to be reinvested into the program. So it is struggling right now, but at some point the economy is going to turn around and things are going to get better, and we're going to be back in a better place to qualify people, I think. I mean, like I said, the need's there. It's just the pinch we're in right now, I think.
It's inverse correlative of our need, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for going through that with me. I appreciate that. That was something we had talked about several times in our meetings, and I didn't have a good grasp of it, so I appreciate that.
And I'm happy to talk about it anytime anybody has questions about the programs and how they work. I'll be glad to sit down with you and go all the way through it. And I'll get the income guidelines to you.
I guess my only comment, Kelly, would be, I think that we should stay as a member, but I think for me, because you never know what's going to happen during the budget process, would be the deciding factor on whether or not we wanted to be eligible for the funds. Because I'd hate to turn something down and then we find out we need it. If we are eligible for it, do we have to draw the funds down?
You have 4 years to spend the money. Right now I have about $300,000. I have 2 projects that are being looked at this week. We have one other person that we've been working with a while to take care of some legal issues on, it was an estate property and they didn't get it divided out clearly, so we've been working with that person. We really ideally would need 4 to 5 more projects in this year or even the next year to spend that out. So what I would like to do is not take on that additional responsibility in this coming year, because I think we have plenty to get us through this year. And then we can evaluate next year. But if we stay in the consortium, we have the right to take that money. And, the other thing is every year it's been cut. If we don't take that money this year, it may save the others from experiencing a cut this year. They may be able to just kind of take our funding out of it and go from there. But I think we do really have plenty for this year. It would be next year, I think, that, the first time we would, and I'll bring it back to you, obviously, because we have to do public hearings and all of that. So I would certainly, and it's up to you if you want to do it. We'll have to hold, if you do want to accept money, we will need to hold a public hearing next month and do all the things that we normally do. I just wanted to bring this option to you. As we have money sitting out there, we have an ability to save a little match money this year, but, obviously, I may be coming back next year asking for that match back if we are at a point where we need it.
Okay. Well, it sounds like I trust that you have a very good grasp on this program and that you know how much funds we have and what the needs are out there. So
I have never not asked for the money before.
I would agree with that. That's why I was a little surprised tonight, but that's fine. I think it's fine I think we should stay in the calculation. Especially if it's not going to cost us anything. And then
I had one other question for you. Who does the title work on that to file a deed of trust and things like that? How does that process work? Do we have a outside
we
counsel?
pay for it through the grant. We use Denise Fellows, who is an associate of Rich's, and she submits that to him, and he does the final review on it before we enter into it.
That's right. She's actually a contract real estate paralegal. And she actually does the title work. I review it, so the only part I have in it's just reviewing it, and then it's passed on. So it's just basically a pass-through of her cost.
And we do a preliminary in our office. We have somebody who used to work in the Register of Deeds, and she does that before we waste any money and, make sure that if there's any obvious stuff out there, we don't move forward.
And that's all funded through the grant also?
Yes, all that's funded through the grant.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Commissioners, the next item we have is approving our agenda for the 21st. If you will look at the handout that you have, it's also in our packet. If you will look at the consent agenda, Most of the items that we have discussed tonight are on the consent agenda. I don't believe there was any discussion about any of these necessarily getting pulled off and put on the new business, but I want to ask if you have anything on consent that you would like to have moved. Okay. Well, okay, on the consent portion or the whole thing?
Yes, the whole thing.
Okay. Can we talk about new business before you make your motion? Just to
Certainly.
make sure? I just want to go through each
Or
section.
we can second it and
Or
then
we
have
can second it.
discussion.
There you go. Either way.
Or it could fail for a lack of second.
Yes, Mr. Robert's Rules of Order expert. Sorry, I have to pick on him about Robert's Rules of Order, so. Okay, we do have a motion to approve the agenda as it is presented before us. Is there a second to that motion?
I will say that if there's any consideration of G1, 2, or 3 going to the retreat, then I think it would be good for us to decide that now rather than at our general meeting. If anyone feels inclined, that would give us, well, it'd roughly just give us 5 more days to decide about some of those items and, to save the school system some time from coming to our meeting, and then we just postpone it to the retreat. I would be inclined to move the 3 items to our retreat.
If you make that motion, I'll second it. I think that's a good place to, these are going to be very big issues, and I think we ought to look at them in a more comprehensive manner, particularly the compensation, because we haven't heard from Kannapolis City Schools or RCCC in terms of what their needs are and things like that, and I think that's going to be a big component of this as well.
That will allow us to give you your financial forecast as well prior to.
Right, I think it
having
all
to do
goes
these.
in line together, so. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's one of the items that we would plan to talk at the retreat is your budget. What is the
Correct.
state of the
Certainly.
union right now, and then what we're projecting as far as what we see as far as revenues and that type thing going back out for 5 years. So we're going to give you a couple of different options to look at.
So.
If you're looking at recurring money, that may be
Right.
something that you need to see.
Correct.
Hey, so
I agree, yeah, that's.
you made a motion to approve the agenda as presented. You have entered a substitute motion,
Sure. Yeah.
which would be to
move
to move
items
to- for-
G1, 2, and 3 to our retreat.
our retreat, and then everything else on the agenda would stay the same.
Correct.
It might be better to deal with that in terms of Commissioner Morris's motion died for lack of a second, and just have it be a new motion rather than a
Okay.
substitute motion.
I'll go along with that.
Or Commissioner Morris could withdraw his motion, either way.
Either way.
Either one. No.
Okay. Do you want to withdraw your motion?
It's dead, no second.
Okay. So Commissioner Meesmer, you just make sure I
So-
get it right too. You're making a motion that the 3 new business items be moved to the retreat.
Correct.
And that the rest of the agenda be approved as it is presented to us now.
Correct.
Correct. Jason, did you second that motion?
I second that motion.
Okay. Okay. So everybody understands new business, we will have other than the informal public comments, it'll be a fairly short meeting on the 21st. Unless somebody adds something. We've tried this before to try to get a meeting with only.
Something always comes up.
Yeah,
It
something
takes a
always
while.
comes up for new business, but, okay. We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we'll hold our fingers or cross our fingers and hope that that works out. We do not need closed session tonight.
No, ma'am?
I accept a motion to adjourn. A motion, do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all very much, and we'll see you on the 21st.